Yeah, okay, guys. So with that said, obviously you guys probably have a couple of questions, and let's just quickly. I'm not sure if you guys want to re-ask questions. I'm not sure if I'm going to find everyone through the chat. So um, if there's something you wanted to ask specifically, feel free. Even if it sounds weird, if you might consider it a stupid question. I think any question is a good question. So yeah, go ahead. I think there's someone that asked, does one pay to see the TPN reports? And yes, you do. So TPN generally charges, I think it's around 45 Rand per report. But it saves you a lot of money to make sure that you are actually getting the right information. Um, I wanted to quickly see if I can show you. Here it goes. I'm going to share my screen again so I can show you that report. So here's an example of the report. This is a random property in Bloemfontein. This is what I talked about, the property value. It shows you an estimated value, market low, and market high. We want to effectively buy this property at a market low or even below the market low. Basically, that just means we make more money from day one. A cool thing is it also shows you when the property was bought, what it was bought for, what it was bonded for, which is information that can be quite relevant. And it also shows you comparable sales. What properties in the area has been actually sold for, like purchase price. Is it the same unit? Is it the same complex, the same size? This is all information that we can process to make sure that we understand what's actually going on. Then it has a few things like area transactions, demographics, and another thing that you can use is area rentals. It will show you the same complex that you bought in, what the estimated rent has been over the few years, and has it been going up or down. So yeah, that's something that I try to use as far as I can. Okay, so do you have a referral for a good accountant and a good attorney? So yes, I do. What I would suggest is to send me an email. I'm assuming everyone has my email. Um, I prefer to use people that I've used before. If you live in Pretoria, I haven't used an attorney in Pretoria, so I would get someone that has worked with an attorney in Pretoria, and they will be able to give you a better recommendation. It's always important to negotiate your fees with your attorney because it can save you a lot of money. So let me just do this. I'm going to say invest at louisreinhardt.co.za. That is my email. If you struggle to contact me, Instagram, message me, email, Facebook, whatever, eventually I'll get back to you. So I can help with recommendations on that. Okay, let's do. My opinion on retirement housing investment. So I actually made a video about this on YouTube about retirement properties. I think it's a very good, safe investment or safe single let investment strategy. I've actually tried purchasing quite a few retirement properties. Unfortunately, none of them worked out, but it's still something that I'm considering pursuing, especially in Bloemfontein. You know, people only get older and they need to live somewhere. Um, I do not make use of the internal rate of return formula. The main reason I do not make use of internal rate of return is because it's way too complicated. I don't really care what the property will be worth in 10 years or 5 years, and whether it will be paid off in 5 years, or what it will generate in 5 years, or how much it will go up in value in 5 years. I want to focus on today and now because I cannot determine what the future will hold. So I prefer cash on cash return. It's just the simplest. Like I say, I try to keep things as simple as I can. Um, Overcomplicating things just makes everything difficult, and you get to a point where you fall into a trap called analysis paralysis, and IRR is exactly what it does. Companies like, for example, iGrow would show you internal rate of return of a property of whatever percentage, and it would technically not be accurate because there's a lot of assumptions. I do not like to make assumptions. I want to work on actuals. Um, okay, so I'm just going to read through these as I can. Mm. This person asks, when should I consider selling versus renting out? In example, should I list my property at a big profit while I'm leasing it out? Realistically, if it's a single let and it has a shortfall, meaning if you put in all your numbers on that calculator and it has a shortfall, there's only two things you can do. You can either try and reduce your expenses or increase your rental income. There is a limitation to what your rental income can be in a certain area. So obviously you can't list a property for 15,000 Rand if the next door neighbor is listing it for 5,000 Rand. That is a bit more of a personal question. I would consider, consulting with someone or with me to discuss that specifically. But it's a difficult one to answer. Um, how do you manage life policy requirements for loans with multiple properties having to be paid off? That is a very great question. You'll see if you get a loan from a bank or a bond originator helps you, they would try and push down life policies in your throat to make sure that you have a policy in place to pay down your debt if something had to happen. I do not take out policies from banks at all. I prefer to use a broker, someone like Alec Levine or Salvo Capital, for example, and I take out separate life insurance that gets paid out to my family trust, which would effectively be, I mentioned previously that it has all my paid off assets. So my family trust will have my life insurance paid out to, which is protected, and that can be distributed to pay off debt as necessary. So as my portfolio grows, of course, I have to increase my life insurance because, imagine you have a 50 million Rand portfolio and you only have 5 million Rand insurance. It's not a great place to be. But yeah, good question. Do I have a follow-up seminar after this one? Not at this stage. This is actually the first time I'm doing this. I'm testing it out, a one-to-many type of webinar. I do offer one-on-ones. I do feel that's where you can get a lot of value. I also have a more in-depth property course and coaching programs. Again, I don't want to pitch you guys. If you're interested, send me a WhatsApp or send me an email. I would love to help you. I'm very passionate about helping people in their unique situations. But yeah, I don't want to make it sound like a sales pitch. With the whole property structuring, what is the process for getting leverage on a PTY, especially when you just open that company? Also, good question, a very common question. If you open a PTY today, obviously there's no financial history in that PTY. How it would be structured then is to sign surety in your personal name. So you would effectively use your personal financial situation with your personal credit score and sign surety for the property, basically telling the bank, listen, I want to own the property within the PTY, but I will be the one that's paying back the bond if something had to happen to the property. Worst case scenario, you can be held liable. Obviously, we don't want that, but that's how you get started. Eventually, we want to get to a place where your entities or your property portfolio generates enough income to acquire loans through its own financial statements. That takes time. I had to start exactly the same way with personal surety. It's just how it works. I'm going quickly. I'm trying to answer as many as I can. So, what are some expenses that are tax deductible that a person who purchased in their personal name will miss out on? So, luckily with property, if you bought it in your personal name, there's still a lot of deductions that you can use. That's why I say if you buy one property, you can still use it as a way to reduce your taxes. If it's a primary residence, it's a different story. But if you basically rent out a property that's owned in your personal name, you can still deduct your interest, your levies, your rates and taxes, basically almost all of the expenses. The big one is depreciation. And that's the coolest thing of property is you can depreciate the asset over time, meaning in SARS's eyes, your property is losing value, but in reality, the property price is actually going up. But my suggestion would be to consult with an accountant. They can help you specifically with that, but you can get a lot of benefits still, even if it's in your personal name, and luckily. Would love to hear your view on expropriation without compensation. Interesting topic, touchy topic. I made a video about this on YouTube. I think that would be a good idea to search it there. You can type in Louis Reinhardt, EWC. I think residential property, commercial property, industrial property overall is not really at risk. I do feel that there is a bit of a shit show waiting to happen with farmland, and I kind of understand the situation. In some cases, it's a touchy subject. We'll have to see how it plays out now. Yeah, but I try and focus on the things that I can control, and again, that's why I don't like to speculate. Yeah. Any advice for dealing with homeowners association when it comes to multi-lets? Yeah. So permission, getting permission. I use properties in single let in sectional title units as multi-lets, and none of the body corporates has body corporate rules that says that you're not allowed to rent out to multiple tenants. There are bylaws, things that you need to consider. You can't put 10 people in a property that can only accommodate 2. So get permission, try and find out as you speak to people if it is something that's already happening. What I do is to see if there's other people doing it the same strategy in the complex. And that's something that I'm actually busy with now is figuring out how to approach a complex on placing tenants or students for the new year. But legally, what can they do? They can't force you to remove the tenants. They'll have to evict them, not me or you. Obviously, that's not advice. And then, what is your take on buying properties on auction? So I'm not a big auction guy, mainly because I don't have experience with it. I try to keep focus on the things that I do have experience with. I do know of a few colleagues, people that has done very, very well with auctions. But it comes down to knowledge again, having the experience of understanding what a property is worth, what is the potential for rent, what repairs are necessary, and what type of auction is it. Do you need to account for the outstanding rates and taxes or levies maybe? Auctions can be a great way to acquire properties at massive discounts, but there's a trade-off, and that trade-off is normally not worth it for me. And I think you do need a bit of capital available to mitigate the risk involved with auctions at the end of the day. But again, it is something that can work. I know a few people that has done very, very well, or people that only focus on auctions. I'm a business owner, but I'm technically an employee at my company and receive a monthly salary. So I'm permanent employment and not self-employed. Would it be a wise choice to register another PTY to buy property in, or would it cause complications? No, so you can. At the end of the day, you can register multiple companies. Depends on what it is that you want to achieve. In that scenario, you are a salary earner from your own company effectively, and your salary will be used to determine your affordability. And you can buy a property within a new company using your affordability that you receive as a salary owner. Your PTY that you earn your salary from has nothing to do with the PTY for your property business then. How long does refinancing take? If you bought right, can you do refinancing straight after for the equity? Great question. I haven't tried it, to be honest. When I started, my mentor mentioned wait at least 6 months, and that's exactly what I've done. The quickest I've refinanced was 6 months. I've never tried it before that. I think, to be realistic, it can be possible. I think specifically with bigger deals, more like commercial type investments, and if you have a lot more cash in the deal, it might be more possible. But if it's 100% loan to value property, I think just wait 6 months. It's worth a try. They can only say no, and if they say no, you can retry in 6 months again. So it's not a deal killer. Let's see. Do you diversify property investments as in short-term and long-term rentals, or do you just focus on long-term? Yeah. So my mentality on property is more focused on long-term, in the sense of I buy a property, I want to keep it long-term. I never want to sell off any of my properties. So I see it more of legacy. I get short-term rewards from cash flow, which effectively gives me financial freedom. But I experimented with an Airbnb once in a small town called Petuli, and it's just not something that I like. It actually performed very, very well in certain seasons, but I'm just not a big fan of the uncertainty. I want to make sure I know everything that I can and run the numbers and account for everything that I can. To be completely honest, I have considered, specific positioned Airbnbs going forward, but every time I want to pull the trigger, I just see a new deal in my area that I'm already buying in that makes a lot more sense. So for some people, it works. I don't personally do that too much. What do you think about buying houses for multi-renting tenants, or do you just do apartments? So I own sectional titles and full titles. Full titles work very, very well because you have a lot more control. You own the land and all those type of things. But realistically, there's a lot more maintenance involved. I've considered selling some of my freehold properties just because of the work that's involved, and there's a lot of maintenance and upkeep that you need to focus on. But it does perform very well if you structure it correctly. So freehold properties can do just as well. An example might be a student accommodation that I have. That is a very aggressive way of investing in a freehold property. But most people might consider just doing, a full title property and dividing it into 2 units, and maybe it has a granny flat. That's a great strategy as well. It does not cash flow as well, but it is still a good strategy to consider. Multi-apartments on erf, you will have to rezone. Just move. Let me just go back. On rezone, not guaranteed, not more than 1 kitchen allowed on a property. Very, very true. That is issues that you'll have to face with. Stuff with working like with a town planner is going to be very important. But rezoning is a different story. Anything that you have to do with the municipality at the end of the day is a bit of a nightmare. But with student accommodation, for example, that's exactly what you do. And you create new site development plans to draw up different kitchens. Legally, what you actually have to do is to sectionalize that property, because it can't really have more than one kitchen. So that's a good point, and it's risks to consider with specifically a freehold property. So, if you bought a freehold property, you can't just place multiple tenants and that's just it. So you need to make sure about the rezoning and the plans and everything that is in place. And there's obviously cost involved at the end of the day. Do you have an exit strategy video on YouTube? So yes, I do. I think I've made one recently about that as well. Exit strategies is very important. Simply put, what you can do is to either sell a property or to restructure the strategy. And what I prefer to do is to have both options. So if you bought a property for cheaper than it's worth, you always have the possibility of selling it without losing money. That's one exit strategy. Or if you're using it as a single let, you can always turn it into a multi-let, or vice versa. So that's definitely something to take into consideration. I have made a video about that as well. Title, I cannot tell you at this stage, but you should be able to find it. Some of my latest videos, I think it should pop up. When you're ready to buy and actively searching for deals, should you register the PTY in advance to make the sale process quicker and more attractive to the seller? Should you rather register it after putting in an OTP? So I try to be prepared, rather register it up front, make sure everything is sorted out. With a PTY, it registers quite quickly, so it's not a big deal, but opening bank accounts and all those type of things, it still takes time. So I would rather be prepared and willing to pull the trigger and immediately close the deal, because you can maybe lose a deal if the property entity is not set up correctly or completely set up. So I'll rather just start with that. The best way to increase credit score, I think it's a combination of those tips that I shared of fixing your credit score. Realistically, what I've done is to use a credit card and to be very specific with what I spend it on. Let's say, for example, I still do this. I spend let's say I go on holiday, I use 30,000 Rand on my credit card and I pay it off as soon as I get back home. Obviously, the idea would be to only spend money that you can pay back double. So if you have a credit line of 10,000 Rand, don't use the 10,000 Rand if you don't have 20,000 Rand cash available. Just a simple rule of thumb. But using a credit card has a lot of risk. You need to be financially intelligent to do this. But the best way to do it is to probably start with a clothing account, so that it proves that you can take on credit, and from there get to a credit card, and from there you can start using your credit. There's also something called a secured credit card. No, not a lot of people know of this, but it's a great way to build credit. You get access to a credit facility, but how it works is you pay money into your secured credit, and then you use your secured credit amount to buy things and then repay it. So you are basically the one funding your own credit card, and this proves to the banks or your lenders that you have that financial responsibility. How can I book a one-on-one session? So the easiest way would be to pop me an email. I think I left my email here somewhere. Instagram, WhatsApp, or Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever. Just try and reach out. I'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. I think it's a great way to focus on your specific situation. So yeah, reach out about that. What checklist can I use to determine if an area will be a good area to buy in over and above high demand for rentals? Multiple listings on Property 24 don't always equal high demand. What should I be looking out for to assess an area's profitability? Is it proximity to hospitals or universities? Yeah, so great question. I think, It's a combination of a few things. It's not just one thing. I think it comes down to experience. You know, if I had to go to Cape Town today and figure out where the high demand areas is, I'll struggle a bit. But focus on the areas that you already know. Drive around the areas, speak to the tenants renting from those areas, figure out what is the demand, why is there demand. Things like hospitals is a great way to kind of spot good areas. And then it also depends on who you're targeting. If you're targeting a lower income earner, there will be demand in different ways. If you're targeting a higher income earner, the demand is going to be different as well. So if you compare Sandton versus Joburg South, for example, it's two different demand areas. Both have demand, absolutely. You just need to figure out how to find that demand in that area. That's a bit of a difficult question to answer, but I think it boils down to experience. And there's not necessarily a checklist, but research, you know, figuring out and combining a few things. And I think working on your gut feeling is a pretty good way to start. Buying under a company, shareholder of company is my trust better than owning directly under a trust? So yes and no, because there's no right or wrong. It depends on how you want to structure it. So I have a property trust with properties in which is basically just owned in a property, but I also have PTYs where the shares is held through the holdings trust. Technically speaking, the better structure is the PTY with the holdings trust owning the shares. There's more protection, there's more benefits, there's more ways to move your money around, but it's more expensive. But it shouldn't stop you from just opening it within a trust. I still own properties just in a trust, and I continue to buy properties within just a trust. You have to have something that is called an independent trustee when it comes to a trust. And most accountants don't want to be independent trustees because they can be held liable if people default on their loans within a trust. So that's why they created the PTY with the holdings trust structure as well. Do you have strategies to pay your properties off faster? Good question, Ben. Something that is interesting that I don't think people talk about often is something called bi-weekly payments. It's a way where you, instead of make 12 monthly payments, you make 13 within your calendar year, and that reduces your overall loan, your interest. I'm not a big believer in paying off properties earlier. It comes down to cash. The more cash you can put into the deal, the better. I would focus on paying down the property with the highest interest rate. So let's say you have a portfolio of 10 and property number 10 has a interest rate higher than, you know, I don't know, prime rate. I would focus on paying that off. My meeting is telling me I have 5 minutes left. We're almost through all the questions. Before I answer the last questions, please, guys, feel free to give me feedback. Like I said, I tried to keep this informal. Thank you so much for everyone attending. I hope that you have learned at least one thing. If you wanted to reach out, send me an email. I love helping people, and hopefully we can sort something out for you. Yeah, let's see. Have you bought or looked into properties overseas at all? If so, don't you have any advice? So no, not really, because I do not plan of moving overseas, or you know, I'm very proud of being South African, and I think I want to be part of the solution and not the problem. And I've spoken with a few people doing properties in London, for example, or the UK. And it boils down to normal single lets that cost them money at the end of the day. So they are more longer term investments. Of course, America, different situation. It's a lot more difficult to get into America though with the property. So you need cash at the end of the day. The more money you have to invest, then you have options. You can literally buy residency if you invest in property in some areas. So I would be very skeptical on advice that I take from people with overseas properties. All right. So you have mentioned the cost of opening a trust. However, I don't recall you mentioning monthly management fees. Are there such fees? If so, what are they affordable and estimate, please? Yeah. So they are not affordable. It's something that costs you money. I think with a basic trust, let's say, depends on who you use, but the company that I use, for example, charge, I think 380 Rand for a company, and I think it's 480 Rand for a trust. So you can imagine if you have 20 entities, it adds up, it costs money. It's definitely something that you have to account for. My recommendation would be to get quotes from multiple companies so that you can compare which one has the best competitive rate. And yeah, don't forget to share the ROI PDF. Oh, yeah. I think to make it easier, maybe you guys can send me email. Let's do this quickly. I'll share the landing page email for the property link later. I think that will be easier. Or you can check out my Instagram. There is a link in my bio which says landing page, and you just type in your email and it will give you the document. So will you have a seminar to detail the protocol for buying and flipping in the shortest time period, how that would work, cash versus bond implications, tax implication, etc. So I'm not a big flipper. I don't really sell properties. My mentality is to buy and hold them. If this is something that you want advice on, we can definitely do a personal session. I can help you quite a bit instead of covering the topic covering the topic broadly, and we can focus on whatever works for your specific situation. So you can also reach out to me. Is that 300 Rand a month for trust? Yeah, so 380 Rand for a trust, or 480 for a trust, and 380 for PTY, for example. So yeah, thank you guys so much. I think that was a decent amount of questions. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Feel free to send me an email if there's something else that I can help with. And again, thank you guys so much for your time. I hope this was beneficial. And the session will be recorded or is recorded, so we'll talk soon. Have a good one.